Hello there and welcome back. Today I will be sharing 14 websites with you that I use on a daily basis to inform my work as an industrial designer. I will share with you where I go to get inspiration, where I find standard parts that I can use for every project. I will share my favorite online design magazines and also where I go to get the most relevant tech updates. So I hope on this list you will be finding something that you haven't seen before or that can also add to your library of websites that you use on a daily basis. So I hope you enjoy. Alright, there we go. So let's start with where I get inspiration from. I think still the go-to website for me is Pinterest. I can just curate, create my own mood boards if I want, and just find a lot of content that is design related. You already see like all these recommendations are based on the searches that I did in the past, and that by itself already provides me with a really nice overview and inspiration in shapes, geometries, patterns, details, right? And I think most of you know how it works, but I don't know, I usually just type the product and design behind it, like speaker design, for example. And then we see B&O, all the relevant stuff, also some interesting things. Then I just go ahead and copy them to create mood boards, potentially. Or we can also just go ahead and be more specific, right? So that's really the cool thing about it. It's so versatile. There's so much content out there that you usually find something that will help you for what you're looking. The next website in a similar fashion I go to every day for inspiration is Le Manouche. It's made by a French designer named Alex. And yeah, I think it's really well curated. So the images all have really good quality. You can use them for mood boards, and they are, let's say, a little bit different from the average everyday products. So they stand out. And I think it's really nice combination between like seeing the product isolated, showing details of a product, seeing it in context. So that's a really cool website. You can also just type, if you search for patterns, for example, then it will show you patterns, but it's not as broad as Pinterest would be. So you cannot just go in there and say sketching and then will you get sketches of every product, but it's really predefined search terms that are relevant for most industrial designers, for example. There's a lot of footwear, automotive in there, fabric, also abstract artwork at times. Maybe if I type in abstract. No, that doesn't work. Oh yeah, it does. But you also see that it takes a little bit longer for the website to load. But usually I just open it, have it in the background, and then just go there every once in a while to see what's up. Another cool thing here is that you can actually go here to learn everything about design. There are courses about sketching, the different software packages, Keyshot, Photoshop, Blender, Rhino, Grasshopper, just everything basically. Even one Midjourney course. So they are not like super long courses, I would say, but they're also not hugely expensive. So I think it's definitely worth checking out a few of them, see if that's something you like and enjoy. Also, what's really cool, I think, that they have a job board here where you can just look into and find companies in your area, in your country that might be relevant, filter them according to your needs and wishes. So it's, apart from just getting inspiration here, it's really also just a platform for designers that look for jobs, that have a job to offer, or they want to learn more about design in general. Then the next page I would go to is Behance. So I think this is when you want to get, let's say, a deeper sense of a single product that you're looking into. I don't know, if we stick with speakers, then usually you get like an entire project breakdown here with like nice cinematic shots, animations even at times. So that can be really inspiring. You really get to see the details, context, and you also see who made it and maybe related projects. So I really like it for my product research when I look into materials potentially, or wow, they have this nice speckled plastic here, or just also interesting ways to frame shots, for example, right? So here we have this very bright light from the bottom and the top, so which makes the edges fade almost into the background, which is quite interesting. It works well with the pattern that also fades to the sides, so that's interesting. But also just in general, it is a nice platform where I can learn also much more about the storytelling. How do I present my work? How do I tell the story that is part of the project, right? So they do it very differently for every project, but I think it's a really cool platform in general. And I basically only use it for that. I don't use any of the other aspects that the page offers, but it potentially has also quite interesting stuff here. Then Yanko Design. I mean, they obviously also have other topics like architecture and automotive, but they are interesting projects. Also, relatively new things most of the time. There are some Kickstarter project every once in a while, and here, this one, for example, is a Kickstarter, where you also get to understand a little bit more of the background of the project, the design intent. So for a little bit more depth, I think it's quite cool. And yeah, it goes on and on. There are projects. And again, you can use the search to type what you're looking for in terms of projects and products. And then you get to see different things. Right. And the next one would be Core 77. So I really like the blog here. So it's not like they do crazy many, it's like one a day maybe that comes up. And then also it's like, I think different people can just share insights into the projects, and which is cool because sometimes it's really the people that actually made the projects that share their insights, and you can comment at the bottom, give feedback, ask questions. There's also just a discussions platform where you can really talk about many different things design related. So this is really also about design. Core 77 also has a job platform. It has its own awards competition every year. Here you can find jobs. I think most of them are American, but still that's cool. And it even has like collection of guides that can be interesting to some of us. Best 3D modeling software for industrial designers, like there's a discussion, online learning platforms, and so forth, right? So it's really helpful resources overall, apart from the just basic inspiration you might get from whatever is new and coming. The creative blog. So this is already more on the design magazine news kind of content. So it's not really in terms of inspiring me in terms of images that I can use for mood boards, but just gives me updates on what's out there in the design world, right? We have these loop earplugs that become more of a fashion statement rather than just an audio piece. And everything on Apple, Smack, right? So it's just like an interesting news update for everything related to design. In a similar fashion, we can go to designboom.com, But this one is even more broadly applied to design, not just industrial product design, but just like everything where aesthetic plays an important role, like architecture. Excuse all the ads, but that's just how it is. Yeah. So here I go much less frequently, but every once in a while I still find it interesting. I think it's also more the classical design, furniture, interior, right? And architecture, but still very artful and well curated images, high quality work. So I like that. Then Fastco, also really interesting stuff, but you have to subscribe to go beyond the limit of articles you can read, which is a little bit annoying because they really have nice articles, good content. And another online magazine is the Design platform. It's also much stronger related to architecture and classical design, interior, furniture. But I do feel like there's a lot we can take from those fields as industrial designers, because here often new boundaries are broken and established, and we can learn from these trends and see how we can translate them into the everyday products that will be placed in these new, inspiring use environments, living environments. Let's go on to the next topic of websites that I wanted to share with you, which would be where I get my standard parts from, right? So I think this is also really important for industrial designers to have a platform where they can find standard parts. So I just picked Mizumi because I think it's really well equipped. It has all the standard parts that you can think of, even though it's quite expensive at times. But I also think that every country has their own websites for that. Like the US has Mac Master Car, I guess. In Germany we have other ones, but in general, it gives me a good idea about what's out there. So when I am designing in 3D, for example, I can already be specific about the type of linear shaft that I want to be using for this project. I can already apply the measurements and dimensions accordingly and dimension my product around existing standard parts. So I won't be surprised by the end of the development if they only have shafts 5 millimeters longer or shorter than I actually designed them into the product for, right? So I think it's quite important to early on try to find the parts that you think you will be needing and implement them in that way directly. So you can order the parts. Another website that I look at in these terms would be the Trace Parts Design Library. Here you can really look for something like shaft and other standard parts, components. And if you're lucky, they have the one that you want to use, and you can even download the model and put it into your assembly in SolidWorks. Let's just go with bearings then, for example. Bearing blocks, pillow block bearings. And you see it's like a little bit deep to navigate. So there's like layer after layer after layer after layer because it's so specific already. But it still is a helpful asset to have a website like this available, and then you can just choose the file type that you need. I would recommend Step or the specific software you're using, SolidWorks, for most cases, I suppose. Right. Another similar website would be GrabCAD, even though it's not so much focused on standard parts, but just in general 3D models of objects of any kind. So maybe you want to add something to your render scene, or you just want to need a reference volume for a product because you don't have any specifications on it yet, or whatever it is that you're looking for. For example, seed. You can type stuff in and you can look for the ones that are useful for your purpose. I don't even know what this is. Seat bracket from a car, I guess. Yeah, and then you can download files, mostly step files or STL files for printing. Yeah, so that would be my go-to website for standard parts and 3D model.
The floor like a drum beat storm. The world spins faster than night.
The last page that I wanted to share are the ones about tech. So I think as designers, tech becomes more and more fluidly integrated into the world of hardware, right? Everything is becoming smart. Everything has electric components integrated inside. That's why I'm always interested in what's going on in the tech world. Also, just like with AI, VR, and all the big companies making huge design progress also and pushing those boundaries like Apple. I think it's really important to look at tech as an industry. And I think Wired is a really nice magazine that has very interesting content, which is not specific to design, obviously. And another one in a similar field would be the digitaltrends.com. You have different themes at the top, a lot of ads going on, but also just like product reviews. And other vertical mouse, alright. That's even relevant for design, right? Ergonomics, smart locks. So there will always be a few snippets of content that might be actually interesting, but also just culturally, what is relevant at the moment? What are people talking about, thinking about, and how do they feel about the changes in tech? Alright guys, that was it. Those were the 14 websites that I wanted to share with you to also help you in your daily practice as a designer to get the latest news about what's relevant, design trends, inspiration, and also, practically speaking, where do you find the right parts for your project. So if you liked it, subscribe. If you have other ideas and websites that you are using on a daily basis, please share with me, drop them down in the comments, and let us all benefit from this shared platform and knowledge. Alright, see you around. Thank you.